What's up guys, this is Kyle from Vapor Hut, driven by you, fueled by vapor, and today I'm going to be showing you how to do a build. This one's called the Poseidon. Basically, if you can handle the transformer coil, you'll have no issues with the Poseidon. You're going to be building those same 26 gauge wrapped with 36 gauge claptons, then you're going to spin those claptons together and parallel it to some 20 gauge nichrome. This is a pretty beefy build, definitely a single coil. It's coming out to 0.23. I suppose you could do a dual coil if you wanted to get real hot, but flavor is great. It's got a really interesting ramp up. The 20 gauge is going to kick in first and glow before those helixed claptons kick in at all. So here's a situation where the clapton really acts like a heat sink. The 20 gauge gets really hot, it dissipates to those spiraled claptons, and then they start vaporizing juice. So the vape is really interesting. It's kind of a warm, slightly warmer. I mean, it's like, it doesn't get dry really quickly like some of these coils, some of these builds that I do. They get really hot really fast and they'll dry out whatever juice is in them really quickly. This is one where you can kind of keep pulling on it and there's no issues. And that's why I used it in that juice review video. It was a perfect coil, perfect setup to go from one juice to the next to the next. Super easy to wick. I think you guys are really gonna like this. So let's get started. All right, so what we're gonna need today is a power drill, of course, some needle nose, some wire cutters, some scissors, some screwdrivers, and then our wire. We're gonna need 26 gauge kanthal. You can use nichrome too. I just so happen to only have kanthal. 36 gauge nichrome. Again, you could use kanthal if you want. It's just gonna change the resistance a little bit. It's not a big deal. And then last but not least, this fat daddy wire, 20 gauge nichrome. So in case you guys didn't notice, I have rearranged my studio. It's excellent now for these far out shots, but when it comes to close-ups for like the build tutorials using a drill, you'll kind of be looking at a bunch of cubbies on the front of the shop behind the drill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do all the claptoning from here. And if this is your first time building a coil like this, building a clapton specifically, just make sure you click on this link, watch the clapton from my perspective or from your perspective while you're doing it. It'll be a lot easier. And once you have that down, you'll be able to just kind of follow, oh, he's doing a clapton, you know, I'll do a clapton. But just watch that video if you've never done a clapton before. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull off about 3 spools of the 26 gauge kanthal. Then you're going to want to fold that, cut it in half, then loop your ends, slide it in the chuck, and let's straighten that wire. Nice and straight. Do the same to the other piece of 26 gauge. Alright, so once we've straightened our 26 gauge kanthal, we're going to go ahead and grab some 36 gauge nichrome. And I'm going to pull off about 6 feet, 2 segments of 6 feet, so about 12 feet. And cut that in half, and then we'll clapton these up. So we're going to wrap our 36 gauge around the loop. And we go ahead and clap in our second 26 gauge. So once you have your two claptons, you're going to go ahead and put them next to each other. Put the two looped ends back in the drill chuck, and then we're going to spin these together. First, what I like to do is cut them even. So we have the same amount of wire, and I'll just, whichever clapton is slightly shorter than the other, that's where I'll trim them both. So now you're going to take your needle nose, you're going to grab the wire, kind of run your fingers along it to make sure there's no slack in there. And you're just going to kind of turn them out like that, and then spin this clockwise. And you're just going to spin it till it breaks. Usually it'll break either at the end that you're holding it with or the end closest to the chuck. Alright, so let me cut to a close-up so we can see this up close and personal, and I'll show you how to wrap it with your 20 gauge nichrome. So once you have your helixed clapton, looking just like this, we're going to go ahead and wrap this coil. So I'm going to be wrapping around a 3mm screwdriver today. And what you want to do is first wrap 4 wraps using your helix wire, and then we're going to pop that 20 gauge in between these. Alright, so now let's go ahead and grab some 20 gauge, about 6 inches, and fill in these gaps. Make sure when you start you put a little extra 20 gauge there on the left side, because we're going to come back and put another wrap around the outside of this side of the coil. Just wrap that in between there. Now what we want to do is pull the coil off, turn it around, and now do that one more wrap. And when you've pulled all the slack out, it should look just like this. So let's go ahead and trim these leads and install this in our Twisted Messes RDA. Alright, so it looks like we need to scoot this coil a little closer to the center post. It is going to catch on our top cap, it looks like. But once we do that, we can go ahead and tweak it up. Alright, so once it looks like that, our top cap's going to make it. We can go ahead and fire this and tweak it. So once you're done tweaking your coil, it should fire like this. So you see we got the 20 gauge ramping up first, and like I said before, these claptons, you don't even see them kick on until the very end when you let go, and the heat from the 20 gauge gets dissipated into your helix claptons. So kind of a neat coil. It definitely produces an interesting effect, and I found the flavors really good on it. There it is. And this build, for whatever reason, is coming in at 0.48 ohms. Kind of odd. The last one I had was around 0.24, so I don't know why, but this is coming in at a higher ohms. Looking good.
And it does seem that the ohms dropped from that 0.5-ish down to around 0.2, which is more reasonable. That is what it should be. That's good.
I gotta say, the Poseidon doesn't chuck clouds like the transformer does, but the flavor is absolutely awesome. Flavor is really good on this coil. Definitely try this thing out, and if you can do the transformer, you can totally handle this. So give it a try and let me know what you think. Well, this has been Kyle from Vapor Hut, driven by you, fueled by vapor. Have a great day, guys.